wouldn't believe this, would you? I'm out in the middle of the desert, off a road, and we get a flat tire. I'm on my way to Wayne Newton's ranch to meet with him because I haven't seen him for years. I didn't get invited out there. But hang on, wait a minute. You don't even know what this is all about. Look, let me explain it to you. Just over a week ago, I returned to New York where my old high school in the Bronx was having its 100th anniversary reunion. So I'm back to check out if the school has changed and to revisit my favorite parts of the Big Apple. After New York, the plan was to head west across America with stop-offs at my old college town, Kalamazoo, my old show business haunt, Las Vegas, and ending up in Hollywood at the second of the high school reunions being held for those graduates who moved from New York to the West Coast. So I had 2 weeks of nostalgic traveling to look forward to. I started my journey at a place I'd never been to. To many people, the Statue of Liberty is New York. Since May 1886, she's been overlooking the harbor. For countless immigrants, the first glimpse of their new life in America has been this great lady. It's hard to believe that at first, she wasn't really wanted.
100 blocks.
The designer, Frenchman Frederick Auguste Bartholdi, originally wanted to put the statue at the gateway to the Suez Canal. When he visited New York in 1871, he decided the entrance to this harbor was better. Good decision. So the French government and the American government agreed that Bartholdi would make the statue, and the pedestal for her to stand on would be made in New York. The French raised money quickly by running a lottery. Would you believe both the U.S. Congress and the mayor of New York said no to proposals for public funding? But the famous newspaper publisher Joseph Pulitzer's appeal to show me the money started donations flooding in from all over America. Now wait for this. The statue arrived in June 1885, packed into 214 crates. Each piece was given a number so that it could be put together, sort of like a jigsaw puzzle. But through wrong labeling, one of the arms was put on backwards. You know, I was born and raised here in New York City. And to tell the truth, I never came out here because I just took this place for granted. But once you get out here and you have a look at this whole thing and how beautiful it is, you can understand why people from all over the world come here and really enjoy this place and just see how awesome that lady really is. There is no doubt she is the essence of America, an internationally recognized symbol of freedom. And seeing Madame Liberty up close helps me understand what the huddled masses, including my grandparents, what they must have felt when they sighted her from the deck of a ship at the turn of the century. Yeah, I tell you, it's fantastic to be back. New York, the city of 17 million stories and just as many cabs. Packed streets, towering skyscrapers. There's an electricity generated by this town. It's palpable. You can feel it. Speaking of a buzz, as a kid, nothing could compare to scraping together enough change to head off for a day at the ballpark. But not just any ballpark.
Take me out to the ball game.
Baseball ain't baseball unless you're at Yankee Stadium. It's been here since 1923, and a little cosmetic surgery here and there hasn't made much difference. At the top level, way up the back, that's called the nosebleed section because you're up so high. My favorite place to sit is a bit lower down. These are called the bleachers. They're way, way out here in center field. And this is where I used to sit when I was a kid. And I tell you what, you had to be a baseball expert to be able to sit out here because this is where all the smart guys sit. And very few people have ever hit the ball over that top, but they certainly have hit them out to here. When I was a kid, 50 cents it cost to sit here. These days, $7 to come sit all the way out here. But boy, I'll tell you what, I love the bleachers. At over 450 feet, it's a mighty wallop to hit a ball into the bleachers. But if it drops a little short, the ball lands in another special place. Just in front of the bleachers is Monument Park, a tribute to all of the great Yankee players and coaches. Yankee Stadium is a 4-stop subway ride from where I used to live in the Bronx. I came down here often to watch my heroes like Joltin' Joe DiMaggio, the Yankee Clipper, Mickey Mantle, and Yogi Berra, after whom Yogi Bear was named. But the ghost of the legendary Babe Ruth remains here forever.
Yankee Stadium, the house that Ruth built.
Babe Ruth, the Sultan of SWAT. He loved kids, but he was a hard-drinking, hard-living hero. Waiting for his turn at bat, he'd have a couple of beers and 2 or 3 hot dogs and then proceed to belt one over the fence.
An orphan himself, the Babe never missed a chance to cheer up a sick or crippled youngster.
He once promised a kid in hospital that he'd hit 2 homers for him in his next game. Babe whacked the first one out. Then, the next time he was at bat, he took 2 strikes and then pointed to where he was going to slam the next one. Sure enough, out the ball went, way out towards the bleachers, just like the Bambino said it would.
Quite a guy was the Babe.
Well, this is what they call the dugout, huh? And I tell you what, a lot of really famous ball players sat along in this. Now, they refurbished this stadium to fix it up, but the dugout is where it's supposed to be. And, of course, wooden steps and everything like that, little cushion seat where you sit here and get yourself annoyed when you're losing and exhilarated when you're winning. I probably won't ever feel that. But basically, this is the place here. And they walk up and down in here, and they talk, and they fight, and they yell, and they scream, and they carry on and everything. I don't think a lot of the fans get to see that, but this is it. This is where the dugout is. And this is where all the big-time, big-money players take their break. I'm going on the field now. And as a kid, this is where all my heroes were. Well, my heroes, and practically every kid in New York, the New York Yankees, a team of champions, year after year, the best. And here I am out on the field where all those guys were. I never would have believed in a million years this would have happened. And this is what the batter sees when he's up there. This is Yankee Stadium. If there's an area that conjures up images of urban decay more than any other, it's probably the Bronx. But this is where I grew up. And for me, the Bronx is alive with memories and experiences that I wouldn't trade for anything. I always say that growing up here prepares you for all that life can throw at you. As I mentioned earlier, the reason I'm here is to attend my high school reunion. If you can believe it, I missed the New York party by only 2 days. As luck would have it, a second reunion is planned for Los Angeles, and that's the one I'm going to. One thing I couldn't miss is the chance to take a look around the Wood Clinton High School. I must admit, it's with some trepidation that I head for the front door. Being perfectly honest, I don't know what kind of a reception I'm going to get. Look at that. That's terrific, isn't it? They got this sign out here that says, Wood Clinton High School welcomes Don Lane. That's fabulous for a student that gave me so much trouble. If you give people that much trouble, you wouldn't think they welcome you back, but they certainly did. This is fabulous. Yeah, really good. Well, I got to tell you, I'm walking down to the principal's office. And it's funny, I'm getting the same nervous feeling I used to get because I used to have to walk down here quite a bit. Early days of school, I was always in trouble. I mean, always in trouble. I don't know what this guy's going to be like. I'll see, you know.
Come in. John,
Yeah.
good morning. Welcome home.
Thank you very
Welcome
much.
back after 45 years.
Yeah, it's only a blink of an eye, no?
It's been
Very
too
nice
long,
to meet you.
Don.
You have no idea how nervous I was walking down that hallway because I just said to them, I said, I've made this walk many times, but I was always in trouble. How about we look around? I'll tell you what, it's really exciting here now, isn't it? Yeah?
Thanks. It really looks great. Come on, we'll take a walk.
Okay, that'd be great. I'll be
Love to
anxious
show
see
you around.
things. This is the older. Oh my God, it's exactly the same.
How does it look, Don?
Unbelievable. This is exactly the same.
Pretty much the way you remember it?
Well, I'll tell you something, okay? I have never seen that stage that clean. I can remember they used to have community theater and things there. And it was always sort of a semi-mess, but look at that, that's beautiful.
But company was coming over, Don, so we cleaned up a little bit.
Is that what you do? You tell the maid, clean up the house because a company's coming, you know?
Look at the old pipe organ. Do you ever remember hearing that?
Oh, no. Oh, no, well, I'll tell you what, that's something.
Came in recently to tell me what it would cost to repair it. $200,000-$300,000. I said, not this week, fellas, but I'll...
For this, we can use a piano, right? We don't need a pipe organ. Look at the balcony and everything is the same.
Absolutely.
This is really terrific. Oh, now, I got photographs of me on this stage. I got to tell you something. Can I walk up there?
Please do.
Yeah?
Please
Let me
do.
just go up. Sit, come on. Oh, dear. The first two things I ever did was I mimed a record called Figaro from the Barber of Seville, and I did it right here. I got this photograph of me doing it in this costume. I'm getting very emotional here now. Hang on a minute. This is really something. And then I got a shot of the senior night, class night, and I'm way at the end over here because I only had a minor role. The last time I ever did that with you, let me tell you. I only had a minor role, and I'm standing here looking at everybody else, and everybody's taking a bow, and I got all the names of the people on it, you know? But jeepers, I mean, that's really something. I mean, this is, how do you maintain condition like this? This is fabulous. Oh. Look at that.
All the rigging and the lighting ahead of
I'm just realizing that this is probably the biggest audience I ever worked to. Without being on television, of course. 1,200
or capacity? 1,209. 1,209.
Wow, that's amazing. 1,209. Only a fraction of the 12,000 students that were here in my time. This is even more incredible when you realize what was missing. I remember this school for everything. The one thing I'm annoyed about more than anything, they got something now that I never had. Girls! You got it. The 12,000 kids were all boys. Girls only came along in 1983. Rats. Oh dear, this is my homeroom class, but it wasn't this small. What happened here?
Well, we had to cut the room in half because we have a lot of special classes that only have a dozen kids in it. So we actually cut these classrooms in half. So you're in half of it, Don.
I used to spend a lot of my time, not at this one, but if we ever looked in the other one, I guess the other half, I used to spend a lot of my time over near the window, you know? Because I always wanted to see if there was anybody I knew out there. And why was I in here and they were out there?
Looking out on Paul Avenue, named for one of the principals.
You now have actual counselors for kids, because, you know, overseas we hear so much about kids and you know, drug problems and gun problems. You don't seem to have a weapons problem here.
Thank God, knock on wood. But we have a great conflict mediation program. We teach the kids how to talk out their problems rather than fight them out. It's been very effective.
I needed you then. Where were you then when I needed somebody to help me talk out my problems and not get in a fight?
Well,
you know
thank
what I mean?
God we got it now.
Hang on, I might get one now. Wait a minute. It took me 5 years instead of the usual 4 to graduate. This meant my football playing days came to an abrupt halt due to a new rule that said 5-year students were ineligible.
Here he is.
Hey, one time. Mr. Wexler found out about this and has organized for me to meet the team, even though it's not the football season. And he's got a surprise up his sleeve.
Can we get you? You gonna quarterback a play? Come on, now. What do you think?
Well,
we brought you here to work.
I'll give you a shot at quarterback, providing nobody hits me.
What do you, nobody hits you. We got.
If these guys are going to seriously come at me and do something, I'm going to be wrecked.
They got a picture of you for 24 hours. They're coming after you, though.
Yeah, right. They don't let me play my last year here, and now this guy can't wait to see me busted up. Okay. New quarterback, y'all. Okay, 33 curl, right? You ready? On one. Down. Hut. Forget it. One and only.
Guys are out of charge, man. Get rid of my quarterback.
They didn't pick him up. Thanks, guys. It's a real big kick for me. It's 50 years since I was on this field. It's good stuff. Nice. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Eddie, you got a few per session hours, we could put him right on the coaching table.
One pass. I'm completion. That's my record.
100%. 100% completion record. 100%. Goes down in history. Nobody will ever beat it. Fabulous. We could use him right now. Sign him up on the coaching team right now. He's not going back. He's staying here. He came home. He's not coming back. Forget this. Staying here in the Bronx, where he belongs.
Okay, well, when I first heard about this, Mr. Wexler has come up with a great way for ex-Clinton students to be immortalized. It's a walk of fame. And for a small price, you can get your name on a brick, or, if you're flush, a bench.
You gotta be. Now, this is what it is. This is the Walk of Fame.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's Gary Marshall.
Gary Marshall bought 2 benches and 4
for
bricks.
people that don't know, Gary Marshall graduated when I did, and Gary Marshall is the, he's produced Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley.
We have it going in this direction, then coming back the other way.
Oh dear, here we go.
Right in the first place.
Don't do this to me.
Isn't that beautiful?
Wait a minute. Yeah, that's great.
Well, now you're permanently part of the family, then.
That's amazing, man. You don't know, it's such a small thing, you know. Who thought up this idea that's so fabulous? Honest to God. Donnie Isaacson, Don Lane, 52. You know, I actually wanted to have them put on there ever today, but they said when you send in a suggestion, but seeing it is a lot different than sending in and saying, okay.
Absolutely.
You know, I want it. But the benches are magnificent. I think, what's this stuff here?
Well, we have some mementos of your visit, Don.
Oh, are you kidding? Yeah, really?
Did he say some mementos?
We have a football and centennial pin. Here's a copy of the journal. Then we have a T-shirt. Here's the banner.
Ah! Hang on a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let me. That's unbelievable. Oh, this is fabulous. Jeepers creepers, isn't that great? Let me see. Hang on. All right. Hey, look at that, folks.
There you go.
Yeah.
There it is. Look at that, the new leather, and these were newly designed. It's a pleasure to give you one.
Are we engaged now?
Wear it in good health. You're always part of this family, and you're always welcome back here, Don. We love you.
That's wonderful. Honest to God, this is terrific. I never expected it was going to be like this.
Looks beautiful.
Because I've been away for so long.
Looks gorgeous.
Right. Thanks, mate. Okay.
Terrific.
Well, this is the place they gave me to you. If you don't like it, talk to him.
We're proud of our son. We're proud to have you back.
Okay.
The exciting Chrysler Neon is amazing value. Standard picture.
There was a time when all you heard about New York was how dangerous it is. In fact, since 1990, the murder rate has dropped by over half. It's not just crime. New York has really turned itself around, and now officials from other cities all around the world are flying here to find out how they've done it. This is the famous Times Square. It's not exactly the nicest part of town, but it's certainly exciting and dynamic. Back in the 50s, I used to spend a lot of time in these parts.
We're on 7th Avenue between 54th Street and 53rd Street. Now, 7th Avenue runs parallel to Broadway, and this is where all the agents have their offices. And when I was a kid looking for work, you had to run around and make all the rounds. But when you wanted to eat, you came to the famous Stage Deli. I'll show you why.
This place is an institution for anyone who's anyone in New York. It opened in 1937 and was originally owned by a guy called Max Asness. He used to talk like this. You know, he was a real character. In fact, they called him the Corned Beef Confucius. The Stage Deli's famous for its triple-decker celebrity sandwiches, but they're not the only interesting items on the menu.
These are what you call potato knishes, and they are filled with a very, very wonderful potato mixture on the inside and a crispy piece on the outside. very flavorful and quite beautiful, really and truly. This is the specialties of the house. Now, there are all sorts of sandwiches, which we'll talk about in a minute, that all are from different celebrities. This one here is called the Barbra Streisand, right? And what we've got here is a triple-decker sandwich. Now, that's corned beef, pastrami, and chopped liver that they have down here. Now, some people go, for chopped liver, but let me tell you something. It's very good the way they make it, okay? Special drinks, celery tonic and a cream soda. Now, I've never found anywhere except in New York where they really have a great cream soda, not to be mixed up with creamy soda that we have in Australia. Celery tonic, something really different. These are Dr. Brown's, and they are different and delicious. Pickles. Pickles are to die for. The dark ones are the ones I love. Some people like the new ones. Somehow, nobody is ever able to duplicate the taste of the pickles that you get at the Stage Deli or even in New York. Foot-long hot dogs, well, magnificent. Foot-long hot dogs that come with some really wonderful and flavorful baked beans. Really delicious. Now, to wrap all of that up, I suppose, you'd have to talk about dessert. Now, you can't go past something this high, which is a strawberry shortcake. Look at the layers and look at all the strawberries in there, and all the rest is all whipped cream. Extremely decadent. And if I take this over here and just show you that, that's cherry on the top, and that's cheesecake on the bottom. Now, you're probably wondering what's going to happen to all of this food. Well, me and the rest of the crew are going to eat all this stuff, believe it or not.
This place is popular with all sorts of stars, and it was no different back in the 50s. Famous comedians used to hang out here, and young wannabes would come and pitch their material. Now, if the comedians liked what they'd heard, they'd spring for a free lunch. If they didn't, they'd shout, "Check, please," which was sort of a polite way of saying, hey, pay up and get out. As well as the ambiance, the celebrities also contributed those wonderful triple-decker sandwiches. According to current owner Steve Arbach, the tradition is evolving.
Well, the Celebrity Max, was the originator of that. Back in the late 30s, early 40s, when his famous friends were coming, be busy, and like a couple times he'd say, "Oh, look, you don't want to wait, go back and make it yourself." So these guys, Joey Brown and all these famous comedians would go back and make these big concoctions and make these huge sandwiches. "Oh, this is my sandwich, name it after me, put it on the menu." So that's how it started. And over the years, we kept that tradition. We just changed the names. The sandwiches stay the same, but we just changed the names. And
if somebody drops out of popularity, you can put somebody else in.
Yeah, exactly. We
sort of like a substitution.
Yeah. No substitutions on the menu. Thank you.
Now coming in for the Barbra Streisand will be the Woody Allen, right here.
That's right. That's what we do.
Maybe I can talk Steve into Don's dinky-dyed Dice Devon Devil Dog. Now there's a thought. Statue of Liberty or the Empire State Building. Sacrilegious. As they say, better late than never, so I'm going there now. Before I do, this intersection has an interesting story related to the time when my dad was a New York cop.
This is the corner of 5th Avenue and 34th Street, a very big intersection. That's the Empire State Building right there. When my father used to be on the police force, he used to stand at what they called a stanchion many years ago. This is in the 20s and early 30s. And he worked the stanchion so that it said stop and it said go. It was right out there in the middle of the street, you see. Now, what happened was there was a lot of immigrants that came to America at that time. They all came from Europe and other places. They couldn't really read English. So someone came up with the idea about why don't we make the stop sign in red letters and the go sign in green letters. Now there is the beginning of the red and green for traffic lights. So the next thing that happened was that they turned around and decided they were going to put up a traffic tower in which police could sit and could control the traffic. So they built the traffic tower there, and then they put the traffic tower into operation. The police sat up comfortably in the top of the traffic tower and controlled the traffic. And of course, that was the beginning of the red and green lights. Now all we got to do is discover who was the guy that invented amber. We're looking for Mr. Amber, believe me. We may even find him. But the point is, traffic flow is pretty good today, but if you ever see this at rush hour, you'll wonder why they ever even bothered, okay?
On the small island of Manhattan are the world's tallest buildings. The Empire State Building is tallest of them all, 102 stories, 1,472 feet into the sky.
Since 1931, millions have made the journey to the top of the Empire State Building to see the most amazing views in town. Through the magic of television, I get to bypass the crowds for a one-man ride.
Well,
Welcome to the Empire State Building.
Thank you very much. It's very nice to hear from you.
Bienvenido.
I don't speak Spanish.
Bienvenido.
I don't speak that either. Listen, we're going all the way up, and we're going out onto the observatory. You can't believe this, can you? They gave us our private lift, and we got a great day out there. Really nice day. Sun shining, not a lot of smog. We'll be able to see right across everything in New York. We'll give you the view, okay? Hang in there. What do we got? 74, 5, 6, 7. I'm getting nervous now. Okay, here we go.
Please exit to the left.
Thank you. I don't have much choice, but I'm going out there anyway, you know? Here we go. Yes, thank you. All right. Oh, wow. I lived in this city all my life, and I never saw any of this. Is this amazing or what? That's quite incredible. Look at this. Over here, look, I gotta show you this. This is fantastic. Look at this. This is the Hudson River. And that goes all the way up there. That up there is the George Washington Bridge, what you're looking at. And way up there, if you keep going all the way up that river, you go all the way up past West Point and all those other places there. And if you come down the Hudson River, you end up out in New York Harbor. Over this side there, that's the East River down there. Now, Susie Maroney swam in the East River, and she went on television and said, she said that everything was good while she was swimming along, but she was swimming in the East River one time, and a dead body appeared next to her. It isn't exactly great in the East River. There's a lot of stuff in there we don't want to know about.
Through the years, airplanes have flown safely around the towering Empire State, but disaster did strike once.
It sounds incredible, but an airplane crashed into the Empire State on July 28, 1945. I was only 11, going on 12 at the time. There was a low fog, and the tops of the skyscrapers were obscured. A B-25 bomber piloted by Lieutenant Colonel William Franklin Smith, Jr. was redirected, which meant it now had to fly over Manhattan. Smith lost his bearings, and at 9:55 a.m., he crashed straight into the Empire State. The fuel tanks exploded, and
the bomber crashed clear through to the opposite side of the 79th floor, leaving 13 dead, $500,000 worth of destruction. Debris was showered into the streets below, where miraculously no one was hurt.
When you see how built up it is nearby, it's amazing that more people didn't die. I guess most visitors these days don't even know about that plane crash.
We're on the other side now. Now we're looking down towards the bottom end of Manhattan Island. This is where all of the money in the world really works. Down there in Wall Street, which is down in there. There's also the Bowery down there. You also got the Lower East Side, where all the tenements used to be. When the immigrants came to Manhattan years ago, right, including my grandparents, they all settled into the Lower East Side, what they then called the tenements. Whew, it's really windy. I hate to be up here on a really windy day. Anyway, like my hairdo? Over there, by the way, on the other side, in case you're wondering, or you never know, what's on the other side of the Hudson River? That's New Jersey, or, as they say here, New Jersey. You got to learn how to say it. I knew a kid in the Army. He used to say, where you from? He said, Jersey City. That's Jersey City for the uninitiated. You may be wondering or saying to yourself, how come there aren't more leapers here? You know, like every time there is some sort of a very large or tall edifice, usually there's somebody who really wants to jump off it. Either they want to parachute off it or just do themselves, right? Well, it's real hard to really upset anybody down on the street here if you're doing it here, because this thing juts out, you know, like it goes down and then out and then down and then out and down, and that's something. You waste your time. Pretty macabre, but I guess they cover it from all areas.
This step-back construction is actually a result of a New York City zoning law that they had when the Empire State Building was built. They didn't want the sun to get blocked out at street level, so the law said the higher a building went, the thinner it had to progressively get. Too bad for the leapers.
If you come here to New York, don't miss out on this, honestly. I know it's something everybody does, but you gotta come up here. Now, see out there? That big green space, that's Central Park. See how big it is? Well, at the very end of that is where we're going next.
Harlem.
Roll out those lazy, hazy crazy.
Yeah, that was me, summertime, 1951. And we were heading out to Long Island to our holiday home out there, which, as you can see, comes complete with home-built, smoke-free barbecue. Lots of food always on hand. That's Jack, my father, on the left, and Dolly, my mom, right there in the middle, getting ready for the mobs about to arrive. Over here, that's my brother. He's 6 years old in this picture, enjoying a snack with my dad. That's me getting ready for the day's activities. Of course, every time a camera came on, Mom and Dad were never averse to performing. Always a little skit at hand. That cigarette holder and my father were inseparable. He was famous for that cigarette holder. Lots of friends and lots of neighbors, always dropping around, always ready to have some fun. They were great days. This little dog that you see about to run in and out here, that was the family pet. Pepsi was his name. Mom was a rope jumping champion. Oops, sorry about that, Mom. That's me, just going on to 18 years of age. And of course, having watched the tug of war, I figured, hey, this is a piece of cake. I'll give it a shot myself. And why not? And of course, I take care of this formidable opponent quite easily. That paint job on that house, courtesy of Jack and Dolly. Great job.
John, this is Sergeant Wright.
My mom and dad grew up in New York, you know, in Harlem. Back then, it was predominantly white. When the area became a popular black district, its character changed. In the 20s, it became famous for its hot jazz, spectacular nightclubs, and all-night entertainment. Ben Jones from the Visitors and Convention Association knows all there is to know about Harlem.
Years ago, many, many years ago, my father used to moonlight out of the police. He'd work all night, then he'd be a bouncer at the Cinderella Ballroom. And so it's my understanding that this is very possibly this is where the place was here. Yeah.
This is one of the old famous ones. Now, they may have called it the Cinderella. This was the Renaissance.
Well, that would have been later, probably, yeah.
Probably so. And on the corner back there was the Renaissance bar, and they also had a basketball team called the Rennies.
And what about that deli over here in the corner? That's an interesting story about that.
Now, that one it used to be a nightclub, and it was called the Big Apple. And all of the jazz artists at the time used to tell each other when they were outside of New York, meet me at the Big Apple. And over the years, it has become the place where New York was named. And now New York's emblem is an apple.
So that Big Apple thing came from there?
That's where it came, 135th Street and 7th Avenue.
I wonder where the heck the whole apple significance came from. I guess it was just somebody made up a name, eh? Fantastic. Well, this is great to be able to look at this. You know, you get the feeling maybe you're taking a walk back in time or something like that.
You really are. This is 7th Avenue was the boulevard.
That's where they all came.
The boulevard. And on Sunday afternoons, people used to get dressed to come and walk up and down 7th Avenue.
So it's like you're on Easter parade every Sunday.
Exactly.
Over the years, Harlem has gained a reputation as a dangerous area. Today, that image is being successfully turned around. Music was and always will be the life's breath of Harlem, and their musical greats are being honored in a walk of fame. And many of the avenues are being renamed after great black leaders such as Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and Frederick Douglass.
The name has changed to a famous African-American, Frederick Douglass, and it's now in the process of being completely redeveloped. It is now called the Bradhurst Development Area. Bradhurst Avenue is 1 block to the west of us.
So all of these buildings like this, for example?
All of these are in the process of being redone.
Oh, this is completely gone, this one, for example, right?
No, they're going to gut it, and they're going to rehab it, use the facade, but they're going to rehab it, redo the fire escapes, and do the interior, so that you'll have a complete modern apartment within. And the lower level will be commercial stores.
And up there, just a little bit of a way where that big, tall apartment complex is, that's where the Polo Grounds used to be, where I used to go as a kid to watch the New York Giants, which is why I came to this area in the first place. It had nothing to do with you. I wanted to see what they put up there.
And I used to live right across the street.
Did you, over there?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
There used to be a pool hall in that corner right there.
And you didn't hang out there?
No, I wasn't allowed to. I used to stay in the street, and my mother used to catch me every now and then by the scruff of the neck and drag me back. Get away from there. They get pool room talk in there.
A good example of the Renaissance of Harlem is Strivers Row, where its beautiful and famous New York brownstones stand out in their original turn-of-the-century style. This is 139th Street.
And this is what would be called the middle of Strivers Row itself.
Strivers Row meaning?
Strivers Row meaning those individuals who moved into the area were those who were striving to get ahead. And that's where the name of the area got its being, because of the individuals who moved in there. All of them were up and coming. They were middle-class individuals, working class individuals, and they were the ones who bought these homes out at that time. And what has happened, these areas have been maintained by the owners. This is one of the few examples where homes have been held by the owners. And some of them have changed. Some of them have been broken into apartments on each level. And I think
not broken into, altered.
Altered. Rehabilitated.
We get broken into. This is not.
That's a good way of putting it. But when they rehabbed them, most of them have one floor through. So either the owner has the lower level and the first level, or the parlor level or the basement level, and rents out the two upper levels. All right.
I forgot about that. They've got the. Oh, this
you have a lower level.
You get down into this. So people in there that live in those would be seeing people's feet mostly.
Waist.
In some cases.
Waist high.
Waist high. In some cases, it's a lot better looking at the head. Well, people there looking at us right now would probably see the famous Apollo Theater behind us over here. Now, the Apollo Theater is one of the traditions in Harlem which has been here for as long as I can ever remember, and one of the great entertainment palaces, isn't it?
Yes, and it's really the birthplace of many of the stars of today, from Lena Horne to Ella Fitzgerald James Brown, Dizzy Gillespie, you name it. They all came in, they all touched the Tree of Hope.
What was the Tree of Hope?
The Tree of Hope was a stump about that high, which they all touched when they went just before they went on the stage.
And they kept it backstage.
That's right.
That's
they kept
fantastic.
It backstage.
Really?
And they were some of the few who made it through amateur hour.
I could have used a branch of that in those days, actually.
Right.
Are you ready? This is the Ralph Cooper Amateur Night.
Amateur night is something different at the Apollo than any place else.
The thing about amateur night is you have a blend of an aspiring artist and a vicious crowd. You get a chance to come on and perform before the audience. If the audience likes you, you continue your performance. If the audience does not like you, you do not continue. And they have a unique way of letting you know that. And they have a gentleman who drags you off the stage, as a matter of fact, with a hook. And he had a whistle and now a whip or something to that effect.
Oh, so it's strange. The old guy who used to take him up with the hook now is not there, but the other guy's got a whip and a whistle.
And a whistle, and he gets you off.
And the audience, they catcall, they boo, they yell, they get off.
They were allowed to do everything except physically get up and take you off the stage.
Yes, a different Harlem is emerging. In fact, both Disneyland and Warner Brothers have plans for here. That should do great things for the area. But no matter what they do, nothing will ever diminish what Harlem is famous for: its soul. New York is one of those cities that leaps into life when the sun goes down. Where else will you see one police car being pushed by another police car? And where, you may ask, would someone with grease paint running in their veins go to at such a time? Hey, It's Broadway, the Great White Way, and nothing scintillates like Broadway at night. I mean, have a look at this place. Now, when people talk about Broadway, what they talk about is the theater. You know, everybody thinks the theater is Broadway. Well, actually, on Broadway, there's really only 3 theaters. The rest of them are down streets, for example, like 45th Street, right down there. You'll find most of the big shows played down these side streets. In traditional theaters that have made names for themselves that are almost as famous as the smash hits they have housed.
I wonder who these guys are, huh? They want a review, huh? What's playing here?
At Interval, theatergoers rush out onto the street to have their cigarettes or whatever. In New York, you never know when this ready-made audience is going to be exploited.
Don't worry, I don't have dandruff.
Oh, God, this is the best. I finally got some hair. I got some hair of my own. I love it. Oh.
Only in America. I love walking around this part of town, soaking up the sounds and the neon glow. I can still dream of my name up on these billboards. But to make this trip complete, I think I'll just settle for catching a show. I hope I can get tickets. I've been to every box office, and every show in this town is completely sold out. What's a guy on his own supposed to do here? I don't think so. Next week, I leave New York for the 2nd time and continue my odyssey. First stop, Kalamazoo, to visit my old college and catch up with a dear friend.
I'm gone now. It's terrific. You okay?
Then, Viva Las Vegas. Bright lights, Lady Luck, and Mr. Las Vegas himself, Wayne Newton.
Without any check, I'm gonna move over here. We can't walk down. Because I love you too much, baby.
Finally, Los Angeles, La La Land. Scene of what I hope would be my big break on American TV.
Drama or comedy stick, it's wow, wow, wow!
And the famous Friars Club hosts the West Coast reunion for DeWitt Clinton High School.
Here's to another 50 years, you guys.
These highlights and many others on the next episode of Don Lane's America. For those who came in late, last week I had a ball in the Big Apple. There was a first-time encounter with 2 famous landmarks. And to tell the truth, I never came out here because I just took this place for granted. Oh, wow. I lived in this city all my life, and I never saw any of this. Is this amazing or what? I took a quick stroll on hallowed ground. I never would have believed in a million years this would have happened, and this is what the batter sees when he's up there. This is Yankee Stadium. To continue the sporting theme, a shining moment.
He's not going back. Staying here in the Bronx, where he belongs.
But it was a no-show for a Broadway show. I've been to every box office, and every show in this town is completely sold out. What's a guy on his own supposed to do here? I don't think so. Interested? You will be. I'm back in the good old US of A for my high school's 100th anniversary. I missed party number 1 in New York, So I'm traveling across the country to the second reunion in Los Angeles. With New York behind me, the next stop is my old college town, Kalamazoo. Then it's on to Las Vegas, the capital of kitsch. And last of all, the city of angels, Los Angeles.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I got a gal in Kalamazoo. Don't wanna boast, but I know she's the toast of Kalamazoo.
Kalamazoo, Michigan. I bet there's a whole lot of you out there don't believe there really is a Kalamazoo. Well, I'll tell you, there is. And we're in it. When I came here in 1952, they had a population of 50,000 people. It's now 200,000. But basically, everything has stayed the same. You know, the architecture. I mean, once you take a look at the houses on the side streets here, where we drive, I mean, you know right away you're in the Midwest. You can ask any American to tell you, you know, where are you here? And they would know just by looking at the houses. But I don't know how many old-timers there are out there, or how many of you remember that song, but I got a gal in Kalamazoo. I don't want to boast, but I know she's the toast of Kalamazoo. Big song during World War II. Were you around during World War II? Yes, I certainly was around during World War II. I only look this beautiful. Anyway. I just saw a squirrel standing out in the middle of the road in my rearview mirror here. I don't see squirrels so much in Australia. They have a lot of things here that you sort of have to get used to, you know, like the names of different things or the expressions that they have for different foods. But most importantly, it's the accent. And our accent, of course, being heavy New York, was a great source of enjoyment for all of the people that we encountered. And here in this state of Michigan is Battle Creek. And Battle Creek is the home of the cereal makers like Kellogg's and so forth, you know. One day I was saying something to them and I said, gee, there's one place I'd really like to go, and that would be Battle Creek. Well, they fell on the floor. They thought that was the funniest thing they ever heard. Battle, they said. Battle. So I said, yeah, you know. I said, how would you say it? They said, battle. The way you pronounce it is Battle Creek. Well, that was my chance to laugh. I don't know how C-R-E-E-K became Crick. When we first came here, there was a whole bunch of us from New York City that came. There was about 6 of us. And we went to this school, to Kalamazoo College. It's a Baptist school. And we're all Jewish kids from New York. So, and it was really great fun. There's something about living away from home for the first time, you know, on a campus and in a dormitory and, you know, eating there. You know, it's your existence. It was really something.
To see the sweetest gal in Kalamazoo.
Well, here I am, 1953, and I'm standing by the driveway at Kalamazoo College waiting for the mailman to come along to deliver me the envelope from my parents with the $10 that I used to get for expense money. And here I am in 1997, the exact same spot. Looks like nothing much has changed, doesn't it? Well, I'm going to go around here and try to refamiliarize myself with everything and see how much I can remember. Come on with me. I came here on a football and basketball scholarship. So you see, sport was a major factor in allowing me to get a college education. This is where I used to play basketball. And this, oh, wait a minute, I didn't play basketball in this. Oh my God, this is unbelievable. We used to have a rinky-dink little basketball court that used to come, it was like one court and nothing there. And oh, wait a minute. This is unbelievable. Hey, look who's here. Herbie Lipschultz. We both came from DeWitt Clinton to Kalamazoo together. Now that I get to walk,
It's you,
It's
okay?
me. How you doing?
Give me a kiss. I love you. Oh, my God.
How you been?
Nothing. I'm gone now. It's terrific. You okay?
You look great.
Thanks,
you look great.
Thank you.
Look great. That's a beautiful jacket, too.
That's what they gave me.
I
told you. I wish I would have gone. You all right?
Is this a change?
Yeah. Come on, walk with me just for a second. I cannot. I'm standing there. I can't believe this. Where we played in that dinky little hall with the wooden floor and that thing. My God.
And you could hardly see. It was so dark.
That's right. I haven't seen him 45 years. Can you imagine that?
That's right.
And as soon as you walk, you know, like I was wondering if I was going to really recognize you, you know? The nose didn't leave much.
No. Nose didn't leave. You still need the road map of China to blow it.
Herbie's real name. Now, when we were going to school here, if we went to chapel, the back row in chapel was Glasser, Siegel, Isaacson, Slanimsky, and Lipschitz. Now, Herbie's name was Herbie's name was Lipschitz. He changed it to Lipschultz for obvious reasons now, right? Now,
actually, I changed it when my daughter was going to start school, but that's the obvious reason.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, because your daughter, yeah.
The spring before she was going to be starting school. And we didn't want her having...
Well, you have to understand, in New York, if you're in New York City, they don't blink an eye at a name like that. But out here, we came out here to the Midwest, and he's playing football on the field, and he's making all of these tackles and doing these things, and the two guys up in the announcer's booth, who usually say tackle by so-and-so, are arguing because neither one of them wants to say his name.
And they're going to cuss, you know, if they do. You can't curse, use that last name.
Okay, well, come on. I want to go out to Angel Field. Yeah. This is the football field. This is Angel Field. Huh?
This is Angel Field.
Look how well they've kept it.
It's great shape.
What I remember about you was you were an absolute terror. This guy would go and make a tackle and knock a guy cold, and he'd go across to the opposing bench, like he did that at Hillsdale. He'd run across the opposing bench and he'd go, I got him! I got him! The rest of us are going, will you stop it? They're going to kill us, right?
Ron Appledon.
That's right.
The guy had about 235 yards against us until that happened.
That's right, yeah, and you hit him. You remember his name, too.
Ron Appledon.
I bet he remembers yours after you hit him, too. Well, I'll tell you what, I had one disaster for myself. I remember I was going down into that corner over there, and Roger Gill, who we had nicknamed, what was the name? Tyke.
Tyke.
Yeah, and he threw a pass to me, and I went up in the air, and I caught it, and I was so excited because I thought I scored a touchdown, and they said I had kicked the corner flag, and I was out of bounds, and I was devastated. And somebody must have said something to you about, gee, he would have scored a touchdown. Then I heard you say, oh, don't tell me, if he scores a touchdown, he said, you'll never be able to talk to him.
Probably right.
Good stuff.
I don't doubt that at all.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. This place is pretty much a typical college campus. We weren't your typical college guys, but that didn't stop us from joining in typical college pranks. You remember we were living in the dormitory, and we had stayed up all night playing cards, and we got up and decided that we were going to play this trick on you.
I remember.
Yes?
You want to talk? You don't want to talk about it, do you?
Yes, it's pretty fun. You had an exam that morning, and we figured, well, you know, we were past all that. So what did? We set all the clocks ahead. We set your alarm clock ahead.
Everything.
We walked down the hallways and set those clocks ahead. Mm-hmm. We went, and remember, we were hiding over here, and we saw you go into the old building that was over there.
It was dark,
and
too.
You were shaking
to open the door.
You were shaking the door, and you were looking at your watch, saying, what the hell's going on here, right? You didn't know. And then when you finally got it, you chased Stewie, the other big guy with us, and you chased him around the campus. You were going to kill him, actually. It was funny. We go around Stetson Chapel. It's a gorgeous place, isn't it?
Yeah, it's beautiful. And it hasn't changed much.
Yeah. Well, it hasn't changed. I
mean, the outside, the inside has changed some, but it's basically what it was when we went there.
Well, you remember? We went there, we had 6 kids from New York, huh? And there were 2 Glassers, Glasser, Siegel, Isaacson, Slanimsky, and we already talked about you. Your name was Lipschitz.
Right.
That's great. In a chapel, we've got all these guys from New York at a Baptist school, and they're all Jewish kids. It's terrific. Yeah.
It was really strange to me.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
Completely surprised coming out to that.
All right, well, now, this is the dormitory. Obviously, they're working on this, and we haven't got much choice to be able to figure where we're going. Now, wait a minute. Let me get this straight. Second window in from the right?
That was bedroom.
That's the one I had. And this was the shower and the toilet.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Steam room. You remember how we used to steam them up?
Yeah, I remember. He used to take 4 showers a day. It's like a ritual. They think I'm kidding, right? They used to do that, I know. Anyway, it's great to say. I wish we could go inside, but we can't. You can see they're all renovating. Anyway, look, I'm thinking. Fantastic to see you, mate. Absolutely terrific, okay? Good. I love it. All right. Good stuff. There you go. I'll say goodbye to them. We're going to Las Vegas. Viva Las Vegas, I think. That's all right. We'll go. If you haven't been to Las Vegas, it's hard to imagine that this city of excess just looms up out of the desert. What you see during the day doesn't look all that special, just another American city with an overload of oversized signs. But at night, it's special. It just bursts out of the closet. This place oozes money. Last year, Vegas casinos won more than $7.5 billion.
Luck be a lady tonight.
The Vegas of my time, the late 50s and the 70s, had a certain mystique. It was the only place in the U.S. where gambling was legal. There were mob connections, Sinatra's Rat Pack, Howard Hughes, the biggest entertainers. It was a bit ominous, but fun. These days, with corporate takeovers, Vegas has been legitimized, and that air of decadence and revelry is gone. Today, it's a giant cluster of theme parks aimed at attracting families. Disney in the desert with gambling. One of my Las Vegas recollections is far more colorful than any neon sign. This piece of property we're standing on has been empty like this for as long as I can remember. It was the original site of what they called El Rancho Vegas, and it was the first real show place that they ever had in Las Vegas. It wasn't a big high-rise hotel. It was a whole series of little cabins and so forth, but they had a beaut restaurant and a showroom. And all of the big stars from that era in the 40s and the early 50s all came to work El Rancho Vegas. The guy who owned it was a guy named Belden Cattleman. He was a true Westerner, you know, he was a Nevadan. And all of the other hotels that were here at that time were owned by the boys, you know what I mean? And those guys made a deal with the government because they wanted to pay a certain amount of tax and make it fair for the government and fair for them. Belden Cattleman, the El Rancho Vegas owner, he didn't like that idea. He said, you guys aren't even from Nevada. What do you know? You know, he was a true Westerner. Anyway, mysteriously, a little while later, El Rancho Vegas burnt down. But oddly enough, El Rancho has risen from the ashes. The phoenix has arisen. Not here, but right up there. El Rancho lives again. The original El Rancho was the casino that stood at the start of the Las Vegas Strip. After its demise, the Sahara inherited that honor. I worked here in the early 70s, and I got to share billing with some big-name stars. And this is the Congo Theater. Now, this is the last bastion of what I call real entertainment rooms, you know. This is where they didn't need big productions and lines of girls and all of that business. All they needed was great entertainers. In the years when I used to work here, they used to have people entertaining up there like Don Rickles and Johnny Carson and Sonny and Cher and Johnny Mathis and Tony Bennett. And I had this great desire that one day I was going to be able to headline in this big room here. But the closest I could come was the Casbah Lounge. And the Casbah Lounge in itself had its own notoriety and built many, many stars. It's right out here. I'll show it to you. Of course, when I worked here in the 70s, I had a far better fashion sense and a much groovier haircut. And this is the Casbah Lounge. Now, it's a lot different now than it used to be when I was here, but this is basically it. And this is where I used to work. Of course, in those days, it was laid out a bit differently, you see. First of all, over here, they had the bar, and the first row of people that you worked to were the people down here at the bar. And then if you wanted to get out to the audience, they had a little ramp that came out, and you would go down there and work. Now, I had a part of the act that I used to do where I used to go and get somebody's glasses to do an impression of Sammy Davis. And there's one particular night There's a guy down front, he's wearing the glasses, and he's laughing, and he's a great audience, and I thought, this is fabulous. I got this guy. I went down there, took his glasses off, and you wouldn't believe it, the guy's ear fell off. And the bartender stopped pouring, and the trumpet player stopped playing, and this ear is rolling around on the bar like this, and everybody stopped and looked at it, you know, absolutely stunned. It was amazing. This guy didn't care. He just kept laughing, picked up the thing, put it back on his ear, and that was it. But I'll tell you what, this was the birthplace of a lot of stars. A lot of people became famous in this lounge and went on to work not only in that big room, but big rooms just about everywhere.
And now here's Don Lane. All right. She loves me, and to my amazement.
This is the audition, which in 1965 got me my break in Australian television as host of The Tonight Show in Sydney.
I was just a little bitty baby, my mama would rock me in my cradle in Denver, a cotton fields back home.
At the time, I was working in Hawaii as a support act for Wayne Newton. It was actually Wayne who suggested me to John Collins, the Tonight Show producer. So Wayne sort of kick-started my TV career. Wayne Newton lives 10 minutes out of Vegas at his ranch, Casa Shenandoah. A lot of people in Australia still think of Wayne as the fresh-faced kid who had a big hit with Dankeschön. Well, Wayne is now the highest-paid entertainer in nightclub history. His Las Vegas shows alone make over $1 million a month. That's more than Elvis or Frank Sinatra ever made.
Yeah.
Hi.
Oh, no, I gave it the office. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in.
That's good about me. That's good. How are you?
How you
good?
been, man?
Excellent, thank you.
Jeez, come on in.
I'm very impressed with this house. Do you rent?
About a month.
Good, all
About
right.
a month. This is the library, the red room, if you will.
Oh, my God, look at this.
Yeah,
Hey, you talk about your memorabilia. This is really something.
well, it started out to be a red room. In some instances, it's turned into the dead room. A lot of people in here who were friends of mine are no longer here, and
A lot of Indian memorabilia. I suppose it was really terrific that you never did not allude to the fact that there was Indian heritage in you. And I think it's terrific, this stuff you've got, especially a picture of Geronimo.
well, that's one of the two known autographs that he actually signed, and he didn't look too happy in that picture, and with good reason.
I was going to say, who would be in those days? There's a Jack Benny picture up there. Is that the violin? Is that his violin?
That's one of his. That's the one he used to toss out on stage to me. That would get all broken up. His Stradivarius, of course, is in the Smithsonian. The microphone right under that was a gift from Frank Sinatra on my birthday, and it says, I used one of these engines. His engine, I used one of these when you were a papoose. And so there's an awful lot of history over there, and of course over here. And
it's so amazingly well laid out. Was your wife partially responsible for the tasteful decor in here, or did you do this, supervise this yourself?
Aren't you nice? Number one, the wife that was with me when I built this is no longer living here.
You married a lawyer now. That's the smartest move you ever made.
Let me tell you something. I finally found one I could kiss.
It's pretty difficult in the lawyer business. That's true. So tell me the significance of this Elvis thing.
Well, Elvis and I were very dear friends, as you know.
Well, you guys owned the town, didn't you?
We ran a lot of it. If we didn't own it, it didn't matter.
Yeah, Las Vegas without you two guys wouldn't have got anywhere, right?
So we hung out a lot together, and his last year playing the Las Vegas Hilton, about 7 months before his untimely passing, was in December of 1976. In his suite upstairs at the Hilton, one night after his show, he wrote this note. And when he finished, he crumpled it up and threw it away. One of his aides picked it up. 15 years later, the aide needed some money, I guess. So he called a friend of mine who was the vice president of a national auction house and was going to run this note through this memorabilia sale. And she called me, knowing of my friendship with Elvis. And I asked her to read it to me, and she did. And I was so moved that I, in fact, did purchase it. So I decided with my new wife that we should write a song around the note. And in the middle of the song is the note. I quoted the note verbatim. I feel so alone sometimes. The night is quiet for me. I'd love to be able to sleep. Help me, Lord.
This room's got to be a bit bigger. You can't, nobody can live like this. It's cramped and everything's wrong.
Well, I hate these big places.
Yes.
You know, they're so cold and,
yes.
and not warm, you know.
I think this is really wonderful. Let's just talk about a couple of things, all right? First time I ever saw you, and you really didn't know me. It was a quick hello or something. It was you, your brother, Tommy Amato, who was your manager and your trumpet player, right? Yeah. Right. And you were working in a little cracker box at a place called Riverside in Reno, and you were wearing a white dinner suit with black trim.
You and I came from a very humble beginning, and so nobody can scare us about that.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, starving wasn't so bad because we didn't know we were starving. You know, and playing those places, sure, we knew they weren't the best places in the world, that, you know, the places we wanted to spend the rest of our life, but...
He's talking about strip joints, which we have both worked, by the way. I know what he's talking about. It's good.
Nevertheless, it gave us an opportunity to kind of hone what it is that we do, learn.
In the mid-60s, Wayne performed a Sydney concert for the troops in Vietnam. The next day, there was a newspaper reviewer who really got stuck into it. This really got me riled, so I let this reviewer have it on my Tonight Show that evening.
And, I mean, of course, this reviewer would definitely know what's going on. I mean, after all, he's in his early 20s, and that, of course, qualifies him for the job of reviewing the show of a man who has more years in the business than the reviewer has on his calendar. And I think it's about time that someone started to take the responsibility of putting knowledgeable people into the job of handling this type of reporting.
You know, I don't think Wayne's ever forgotten that, and it's probably one of the reasons we've remained friends to this day.
You know, everybody knows you changed your image. Was that advisory, or was it something you felt? Who was responsible?
It's kind of two things that happened to me. I had a terrific manager at the time, but more than that, I had reached the point where I was 30 years old, 28, and I was still, 2 years ago. And
I thought I might get him. I didn't get him. It's all right. Go ahead.
And my brother and I were still doing the same, you know, kind of act where he would sit on the stool and throw barbs at me and make fun. And I was supposed to, wide-eyed, you know, what do you mean by that?
Thank you for all the joy and pain. Sing it, sexy kid.
Well, that got to be a lie for me. And so I talked with my brother, and we split up because I couldn't go on with that. And I had a manager who then said to me, what is it you want to be when you grow up?
And you're already 30, right?
Yeah, I'm 30, and I said, I'm not sure I understand your question. You know, he said, well, if you want to be what it is that I think you want to be, you better start off by taking off a lot of weight. You better get yourself in shape and move in a very definite, you know, precise and deliberate way.
Ladies and gentlemen, Wayne Newton!
They call Wayne Mr. Las Vegas, and he really works hard on stage. Television guru Merv Griffin once said, Las Vegas without Wayne Newton is like Disneyland without Mickey Mouse.
Why can't you see, thank you, what you do to me? It's a tough job, guys, when you don't believe a word I'm saying. We can't go on together with suspicious minds. We can't build our dreams on suspicious minds.
It's too bad that everybody can't get an opportunity to come in and have a look at this place. Very tastefully done and very opulent and quite beautiful. And I'm sure nobody's going to ever deny you whatever it is you got. Because, as a matter of fact, I was with my producer, And I said, do you know that in the 70s, what I just talked to you about before, I said, do you know in the 70s, this guy did 40 weeks a year here, and he did these shows every night and did so forth and so on. And he said, oh, well, then if he'd worked that hard, he deserves what he got. I thought, well, that's okay.
Well, last year, well, I think it was last year, we finally put a pencil to the amount of shows that I've done in Las Vegas alone. No place else in the world, no place else in the United States. And a year ago, January, we celebrated my 25,000th show in Las Vegas.
You wouldn't hurt me, would you? That's your brother?
I thank you for that.
Well, I want to tell you something. I couldn't be more proud, and there's nobody more deserving. When I hear about Don Lane, I go, that's my man.
You're a good man. Thanks for that.
Suspicious boy! Suspicious boy!
After a couple of weeks of toil, travel, and a few tears, I make it to my final destination, Los Angeles, the so-called City of Angels. Even though I've lived here a couple of times, I can't say I'm LA's biggest fan. It doesn't have the character of, say, New York, and it's multi-smoggy. This city has 85,000 members of the Screen Actors Guild. Only about a quarter of these are working at any one time. In LA, if you don't call yourself an actor, chances are you're a producer with a film in development. But this is the home of Hollywood, and so many movies have been filmed here that everything seems vaguely familiar. And while I'm here in Los Angeles, we're lucky enough to be staying at the Holiday Inn in Hollywood. Look at this view here. You get, there's the Magic Castle down there, that building with the flag on it, and then you get this great panoramic view of all these houses tucked away in the Hollywood Hills. Great expanse of hills out to the top, and way up there in the top, that's the famous Hollywood sign. And as you swing all the way around to the other side, you get to see Griffith Observatory, and that's where they shot some of the scenes from Rebel Without a Cause with James Dean. And over on this side, have a look at this view. All the way out there is downtown LA. As you swing across here, that's Hollywood High down there. That green patch is their football field, and those stands is where they shot the musical Grease, right in there. And right down there is something that you will all recognize. And it's right here on busy Hollywood Boulevard. It's Grauman's Chinese Theater, or as it's now known, Mann's Chinese Theater. And in here, when they walk around, there are the footprints and the handprints and the autographs of every major star you've ever thought of, going from the early 30s right up to the present. And along here also, of course, on Hollywood Boulevard, is what they call the Walk of Fame. And they've got stars for everybody you ever dreamt of that goes all the way down to the end of Hollywood Boulevard, all the way up almost to Beverly Hills. You got to see it to believe it. To get your handprints in the cement out in the front of Mann's Theater is almost as coveted as an Academy Award. And oddly enough, both traditions started in 1927. Having a star on Hollywood Boulevard can't compare to an Oscar, but it's still pretty special. And who knows, maybe one day with hard work and dedication, I might just make it. I had a crack at TV over here in the early 70s on a big-time variety show called Wow. The producer, Alan Bly, lives in the LA suburb of Encino. We were going to do brunch at his favorite deli. Excuse me, you got time for an old television star?
Oh.
Yeah. I don't kiss men, but I love his face. How are you?
You know what? It looks like he's tall, but I'm standing in a pit.
So you're good? Excellent. This is one of the great producers in Hollywood. Wait till you see how many kids he's got out. That's great. How are you?
You know, I'm so surprised to see you. I had no idea this camera was here.
Give me a chance to sneak up. Thank you very much.
In case anybody wants to know, I just did see him about 5 minutes ago for the first time in years. And it's wonderful. It's delicious to see him looking so good. He's as funny as he ever was.
Let's talk about Chris Beard and you,
yes.
You know, an expatriate Australian that came over, and then you two guys met, and you did a lot of work before that, but then the big thing was Sonny and Cher.
Sonny and Cher. I tried to bring Chris in with me on on the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour when I was doing that, but he couldn't get out of his contract. And so the first thing we did together actually was the Elvis Presley special, which is today known as the comeback special. It's been run about 8 million times.
Is that Hawaii?
No, it was before Hawaii. That was done in Studio 4 at here at NBC, and it was the first television show that Elvis Presley had done in 10 years or 9 years. And he was very nervous, and it was very exciting. And you know, it's where he wore the black leather and was in that big kind of a pit with the band and the audience
people all around him, pretty much, yeah.
And it was just a remarkable experience for a kid from Winnipeg and a kid from Australia, Sydney, or wherever Chris was from, to be working with the king.
Whether it's drama or comedy stick, it's wow, wow, wow!
I came back from Australia, and I didn't know what the hell I was going to do here, and the only contact I had was Chris Beard. And Chris sat down and said, we're doing a show called Wow. This was a group of unknowns that even you could not have imagined how far, forget about me, that's not important, how far some of those people went. Now list for us, we had an unknown cast that you handpicked, and amongst them was
yourself, of course, Steve Martin, Cheryl Ladd, who was then Cheryl Stoppelmore.
And 20 pounds heavier.
And 20 pounds heavier, but still very pretty face, as they say.
Okay.
Terry Garr.
And Ken Berry, who everybody would remember as the...
Ken was the star and was wonderful.
The lieutenant in F Troop.
We know who you are.
Yeah, you're Mad Max, the notorious trophy snatcher.
No, I'm not Mad Max, the trophy snatcher. I'm Ken Berry, the handsome but modest star of WOW.
Chris and I have done a lot of shows. We've both won Emmys. Been nominated for Emmys, won Photoplay Awards and Golden Globe Awards. Honest to goodness, that was really one of the very best shows we ever did, in spite of Don.
Now I understand that you and Chris Beard may team up again.
Well, we have quietly been working on a few things and having a terrific time.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
You got room in there for a guy that...
You can never tell.
You know? Yeah.
You can never tell. You think I'm kidding, but I'm not.
We could start this all over again.
That's correct.
We might have to come back here 20 years from now and do this again.
We've got actually a couple of things going, and absolutely you can never tell, Darlene.
Alan Bly.
This happens here all the time.
But one of the best
kiss each other, you know, carry on.
It's a Jewish thing.
It's, you know, what can I tell you?
I want you to make a rock and roll recording.
Sign here.
You're going to be a superstar.
Sign here.
A millionaire.
Sign here.
And a gigolo.
A gigolo. Sign here.
As I head into my reunion at the famous Beverly Hills Friars Club, I find it amazing that DeWitt Clinton, a humble school in the Bronx, turned out so many famous names. Burt Lancaster, George Cukor, Neil Simon, a kid named Ralph Lifshitz who became Ralph Lauren, Broadway's Richard Rodgers, plus scientists, politicians, generals, and a few Supreme Court judges. Incredible. Like all parties, this one started off a bit hesitantly, but with a room full of boys from the Bronx, things get moving pretty quickly.
I'm happy, so happy walking on air. Why the wherefore is someone I care for.
It's great to catch up with these boys, some of whom I haven't seen for maybe 45 years.
You get a guy whose name used to be Heshy, and this is what he grows up to be like, you see?
Now check it out, my man.
We were in plays together at school. He did a nice job.
That's right.
This is his, say hello.
Nice job. I was better than Don.
Hello, Australia. I know him for 3 months now. I don't speak Australian, but I don't even speak English.
A slightly soused Joey Strauss. And of course, everybody here is trying to outdo each other with the one-liners.
The thing that stunned me, absolutely stunned me about my arrival in Sydney was when I went into a urinal for the first time, I thought either these were very big men or they had bad aim.
We call these carrots. What do you call them down there?
Wonderful.
You didn't think he'd share that with you, did you? Well, because Donnie Lane has a crazy show, we share everything with Don.
Tonight's guest of honor is Gary Marshall. He created TV shows like Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, and Mork and Mindy.
They're trying to remember girls we went out with, right? So my one friend says, what was the name of the girl? You know, with the what was the name of the girl? And the other guy says, you mean the one with the gnarled fingers?
Gary is another DeWitt Clinton success story. A famous television producer and film director as well. His big screen hits include Pretty Woman, Beaches, and Overboard.
Sex feels a lot better than it looks. Jeannie Bartolotti, my high school sweetheart.
Gary graduated the same year as me, 1952. When I was on the school football team, I didn't realize Gary was paying close attention from the packed stands.
To me, because I was very shy in Clinton. I was the sports editor of the high school paper. Mr. Phillipson was my teacher. Because I couldn't make any of the things I played, I got hurt. And then I saw you catch a touchdown pass against Cardinal Hayes High School in the end zone. And way before it was popular, you went crazy in the end zone. You danced, you jumped, you hopped, you threw the ball down. Nobody ever knew what that was. In those days, it was cool. You scored, you walked back, right? Not you banging, jumping.
You have no idea how happy I was. I only went over my whole life. It's the only touchdown I ever scored, by the way.
But I wrote about that in the paper. Yeah. And then I saw you guys do your act. Clinton Night, it was called. You went and did your act. I stole one of your bits, by the way, where you shot a guy with a gun, you shot him with a gun, and he turned around and he had an arrow in his stomach. Right, yes, Still works. Still works. We did it on Happy Days, I think.
The old bits are the best bits, right?
Very solid. No, they have in Australia, I heard the tall poppy theory. In the Bronx, we didn't have the tall poppy theory.
That's right.
We had the tall Ragusa theory. There was a guy, Anthony Ragusa. If you got to be a big shot, he hit you right in the neck. Boom, and you went right down. It was the same theory. Don't be a big shot.
PFC, Don Isaacson.
During the 50s, I won the All-Army Talent Quest 2 years in a row and subsequently appeared on the famous Ed Sullivan Show. I was amazed to find out that Gary's early showbiz career paralleled mine.
After I graduated from Northwestern, I went to Korea the end of 56. I was there 57, 58. And it was better to make somebody laugh than shooting. I never liked the shooting part.
Sometimes you got to use the gun to get a laugh.
Yeah, hello. But I had to learn part of my act in Korean, which I didn't speak very well. And we did the whole, I did a double with another guy, an accordion player. And
but it got you out of there.
Got me out of there. We toured, we were all Far East, and we were all, I got a plaque like you. It says all world.
That's right.
It's nice to be all world or something. And we did it in Washington, and we never got on the Ed Sullivan. Broke my heart. You were on the Ed Sullivan show. Yeah. We didn't get on because Ed Sullivan said, it's an Army show, and that Marshall's act, that we wore costumes. We didn't work in our Army uniforms, so he didn't want us. We were in comedy clothes. Maybe we should spice up our mascot, but it's an eye. Who the hell wants to see a singing eye? But wait, what if we named it Blinky? Blinky the tap dancing eye.
How the hell did they develop that character for you on Murphy Brown?
I'm doing a touch of all the guys I worked with at the network, and a little bit of my father. You know, my mother, Penny, my sister, kid sister Penny, one of the great, Laverne from Laverne Shirley, and a terrific director. My sister Ronnie produces the Suzanne Summers show, Step by Step. So my mother had a great sense of humor, and my father had a sense of humor like this table. My father was not funny, but a good boss. That's why we all became bosses and funny. But I based a lot on my father, whose attention span was never, very good. Don, I don't want anything. I just want to see if I remembered your name. Now, it's the linchpin of my entire network. Roll something.
But Stan, you always tell us FYI is the linchpin of your entire network.
You're so sweet. You cut yourself, I bet you bleed sugar. Now get out of my way, I'm gonna make him bleed.
Well, I'm really proud to have known you.
Hey!
God, it's been great, and to see you wandering around, I can still see you wandering around the halls in Clinton.
Yes, carrying the book, hunched over, sneezing, and you were catching the ball in the end zone, and it's funny.
Meeting up with Gary is a highlight in a night of highlights. Meanwhile, back at the reunion, we finish up with a great Bronx tradition.
And that chocolate syrup goes in that glass. And these are famous drink in the Bronx. They're called egg creams. And you can't, wait a minute, you can't make the drink without this, which is a carbonated water bottle, which we call here seltzer. And over here is the milk that goes in with it. They mix that all together and it looks like that in a glass. Hold the glass up like that. Stand up. Everybody else. Here we go. Here's to another 50 years, you guys.
So with an indulgent toast to the future, the old boys retire into the night, warmed by a pocketful of rekindled memories. It's been a very special time for me, one that I will never get to experience again in my lifetime.
That's amazing, man.
It was my wish that this journey was not just for me, but for me to show you some of the treasured places and people that played a role in how Morton Donald Isaacson from the Bronx became Don Lane and traveled the winding path that brought him to Australia and the realization of his dreams.
Next on 9, 60 Minutes, followed by the year's most exciting movie premiere, The Specialist, starring Sylvester Stallone and Sharon Stone.